Hello, I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers. Well, cooler fall weather brings people outdoors looking for community activities, and one of those activities, the focus of today's program, Carl Junction Bluegrass Festival. Joining me, Gary Stubblefield and Chuck Doyle. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Hi.
And you're talking about the Bluegrass Festival. It's an annual event coming up at the end of September.
This will be the 17th year.
17th year of doing it. Start off a little bit of background. People, how did this get started in Carl Junction?
Well,
either one of you have a little historical perspective.
Jim Wisdom, the late Jim Wisdom was a mayor, and he felt that we had this, what he called a hidden gem, Center Creek Park, that people needed to discover. So he wanted to come up with an event that people could, that would be family friendly, kid oriented, and that would be held in that park so people could discover the hidden gem. And that was how it started.
And it started off with the bluegrass music?
So
it
it
kept
stayed
that
true for just
tradition
the 17th
throughout those years.
Yeah.
That's right. So it started off probably as a, we say, community festival for the city of Carl Junction.
Right.
Now it's really a regional attraction.
It is. In fact, it's the longest running one in the region, longest continuously running Bluegrass Festival.
Well, I know both of you have been involved for many years. This year you have a new perspective and Chamber of Commerce involvement. Explain that for us.
Well, for many years, Jim Wisdom and Pat Smith and Randy Corbin kind of spearheaded the effort, and there was a lot of community volunteers, including Chuck and myself and half the town, because it's our festival.
Takes a lot of work, right?
Yeah, and so a lot of people have always had a big play in it. Over the years, we lost Jim, and then Pat and Randy kind of wanted to slow down. So they were wanting to hand it off a couple years ago, and no one really felt that they could take it on, including the chamber at that time. And so the city took it over last year. This year, the city approached the chamber and asked if we would reconsider. And luckily, our chambers had pretty good growth, and with our growth, we've had some chambers that are very active and looking for projects, and so we felt that we had the manpower to take it on.
And you talk about manpower. I know a lot of communities, Joplin and others, Joplin looking at possibly redeveloping a festival. People don't realize what the work it takes behind the scenes before you can have an event like this.
It's year-round. We'll use close to 50 volunteers the day of the event, and of course throughout the year, especially right now as we're leading up to the event, we have a lot of committees with a lot of volunteers on each committee, so there's a lot of work.
That's a lot of coordination. And Chuck, you've been involved in the music side.
Yes.
What attracted you to the bluegrass aspect of a Bluegrass Festival?
First of all, the love of the music, period. And then Randy and Corbin and I got to know each other, and we began to, we found our common interests, and he said, hey, I need some help, as many do. So I started to just help out, and he began to mentor me in how he carried out coordinating the bands, preparing other things for the festival as well. And after a number of years of the big 15 mark, he says, hey, I need to sit back and watch. So he handed it off to me, and it's a lot of fun. I start booking bands in the fall right after the festival is over, try to have them all booked by the end of the year or January or so, because these bands are busy and they get their schedules going, and the music's great. That's the thing that keeps it solid, I think, year after year. It's just the tradition.
And when we talk about bluegrass, for people who may not be that familiar with it, how would you describe that to someone? We have perhaps young viewers, other people that may not be familiar when we say bluegrass music.
Bluegrass is Americana. Bluegrass came from the folks of many cultures, the Irish culture, the Scottish culture, other cultures that came to America and settled in, and they began to play their music in the mountains and the hills and the valleys of our nation, and it began to evolve into what we know as bluegrass. And so there's a piece of history in the style itself, and then that style itself branched out into what we know as the blues, rock and roll, and all that sort of thing. So it's the core. I mean, it's a foundational part, I think, of American music.
And you have a logo, which we could show on the screen, which really ties into the banjo. And when people think about bluegrass music, they think of banjos. Tell me about the development of this new logo that you have for the festival.
Well, now that the chamber is, putting on this event, we've asked our members to take ownership in this and take pride in it. And one of the very first to come to our rescue was Choice Marketing in Joplin. And Karen Plott has always been a strong supporter of our chamber and anything in our community, including our yearly October breast cancer awareness events. And so she would not allow anyone else to do the logo and would not allow us to pay for it, which was good price.
Mm-hmm. So this will be the identification from now on when you mention the Bluegrass Festival.
We'll be branding everything with this new logo.
Tying all that together. Well, today I know the viewers are probably interested in what's going to happen, what's new and so forth. So I'd like to take some time on the program as we go today and discuss that. You've mentioned it's an annual event and where it's been held. As you look from year to year, what do you look at as far as changes? Let's start off with that. What's different this year that people may not have seen in previous years?
Well, before we ever start having that discussion of change, we make sure that we're all on board that some things are not going to change.
Mm-hmm.
That it will always be about the music.
Right.
That it will always be kid-friendly, family-oriented. That it will always be free admission. And then we'll stick to the core components that have always worked: the music and the food and the crafts and the kids' activities, and then we'll build on that. So all the things are coming back, like all the food vendors, and you can have your breakfast, your lunch, and your dinner
so
there.
all day long you can
all
find food.
Plenty of food, and lots of kids' activities, and that we've held on to all the same components, but we've made a real effort to add more of them. So we'll have the petting zoo, which is always popular. Spiva's bringing in a kids' tent where you can create art.
So arts and crafts for the kids.
Bounce attractions, balloon guys will be twisting up balloon fun. And new this year is a dunk tank. And one thing that we're really wanting to make an effort with, we wanted to take on this festival because every city needs to have a signature event. We sure didn't want to see it go by the wayside. So the Chamber was really interested in doing that. But we also wanted to see if it wasn't a way that maybe we could use the festival as kind of a springboard to doing good things for the community. So we have a dunk tank, but it benefits Ronald McDonald House.
So when you pay to throw the ball and sing someone, you're benefiting.
Exactly. And we're still looking for people to sit in the dunk tank too, Judy.
Okay. So you're
Just put that out there.
Who are some of the people you've already selected? Are they well-known community leaders?
Well, we've picked Judy Stiles. And
so you're still searching for people
we're
to be
still,
victims.
yeah. We've got some really good sports that will sit there. The car show that we've always had has been expanded to be a car and bike show, and it benefits Carl Junction Cares, which is our breast cancer nonprofit. The 5K race will benefit both CARES and our Chamber Youth Fund, and that's the money that we give back to make sure that our kids get to go to national and even state tournaments.
When they qualify for different things, they have the funds to do.
And we were able to expand our youth fund within the Chamber to also create a scholarship fund so that we can send people to Missouri Southern. And so this will give us a chance to kind of replenish that fund. The Center Creek Duck Race, that's new. It benefits the youth fund as well. And so all these, the chili competition, that benefits our local food pantry. And so we've been able to not only add things, but find a way to let it help others.
So there's minimal entry fees or fees for participating in some of these things that then
everything's very reasonable.
Reasonable price and helping. So keeping it still family friendly and affordable for people who want to do those types of activities. Well, let's start off talking about some of the things you mentioned. You mentioned the car show and the car and bike, so it's expanded. People might be curious, how do you get your car? What type of cars are you looking for when you say car show?
Well, the car show, we've turned that over to, there's a guy here in our area, his name's Ken Phillips. He does a lot of the car shows. You'll see him out on Route 66. And so we're letting him kind of run that to free us up because we're taking on so many different things and expanding it into the bikes. But, we want any type of muscle cars, antique cars, if
hot rods and things.
Yeah, if you're proud of your car, it needs to go in there. The first 50 that enter, and you register the day of the event, will get a dash plaque. There's also trophies, and there's a 50-50 pot. And so in the case of both the car show and the chili competition, you don't have to pre-register. You actually register that day, that morning.
So in the chili cook-off, everybody thinks of fall and chili. Imagine you probably have a lot of people will share their secret recipe, or they don't want to share their secret recipe, but they want to share their food. They're going to bring their chili.
But they're going to share samples.
Yes.
And we've even taken this to a little bit bigger level. John Tupper, who is in charge of the Chili Appreciation Society International, Cassie,
overseeing.
They have their own sanctioned judging. These are professional chefs that will travel in from all over, but we also have a homestyle competition like you and I could join. But after all that judging is done, there's going to be sample kits for $3, and all that also goes to the food pantry. So you'll get, they're not going to give you the recipe, but they'll let you sample
Let's
it.
see how they're different than the other person.
Right.
Tie that together. Now the duck race, you mentioned that, and you mentioned the creek. With the little rubber duckies floating down the creek. Describe what that will be.
That's brand new.
It's a big wave of yellow going down.
So all those little rubber duckies going down.
Over 1,400 ducks will be dumped in the river about 3 o'clock that afternoon. And right now, and as this show actually airs, you'll be able to buy your ducks for $2 each, or 5 for $10.
Okay, so they'll have numbers or indication on the bottom to see who makes it down first. Or
6 for $10. I guess that's the better deal, isn't it? Yeah, they'll all be numbered, and so someone gets to number all those ducks. Someone gets to retrieve them all and re-inventory them for next year. But we've got a good, strong committee doing that, and all that money will, of course, benefit the youth fund.
And of course, your park is close to the creek, so
Center Creek Park.
Center Creek Park.
So you
couldn't be any
just
closer.
walk to the edge of the creek and put them in.
Yeah.
So how far will they actually be floating down the water?
Less than a quarter.
Yeah, not that far.
Okay, so you have a designated pickup point or the stop point where the people will be.
We'll
collecting.
announce from the bandstand when they've been launched, so people can be along the creek to see them come
Cheer
in.
their ducks along. Of course, you
Yeah.
don't know which one's
You know
yours
which
if they're all
one's
green and all together and so forth. Well, a lot of things. I know you have some pictures from last year, and as we're talking, we can look at some of the bands, and as we start talking about music, we'll be able to look at some of those pictures. But Chuck, the music, the bands, do you find some bands continually want to be part of this program? And come back year from year?
Most of them are immediately saying this is one of the best experiences we've ever had. We'd love to come back next year. And sincerely, they love the environment. They like being really up close to the people as well. I remember one season the sound system went out temporarily, and they didn't miss a beat. They just pulled their instruments right off the stage, 10 feet from the people, just kept right on playing. Everybody could hear them. It was wonderful, and they like that kind of environment. They feel like they're up close to and you're up close to the musicians. You can go right down to the bandstand right after they play or before they play. You can walk up to them, you can shake their hands, you can buy their CD, whatever you want to do. They really like to come back and play. We probably, about half of our schedule have been at the festival repeatedly. They're just good draws. The people follow these particular bands, and they do a great job anyway. So a lot of folks that come in year after year, and then we shake it up and bring in some different acts, as well. And I was just talking to somebody from Iowa today. Heard about the festival, called, said, "Hey, we're interested in playing in your festival." Turned out he lived for a little while in Missouri, so it was like talking to Missouri
Coming back
boy.
home to play the music.
Yeah.
Sure. Now the bands are playing for entertainment, or is there any sort of judging involved with the bands on the music side of things? Or
No,
is it just pure
everybody loves them. Everybody loves them, and everybody's great. And you'll see bands that have maybe played together for just a little while, and you'll see bands that have played together for decades, and the old and the new.
Well, I think we have some of those pictures, if they can call those up from our control room. We'll look at some of the pictures from the last, I guess it'd be 2 years ago or so when you've had this.
Yeah.
You try to capture some of the images, and if we can't get them here, I was mentioned there's the logo for the festival, and then let's go through some of the pictures and kind of talk about what people are seeing as we go along. Talk about the 5K race.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Cute little logo.
That's new. It will kick off registration that morning is 8 o'clock at Frank Dean Ballfields, which is connected
Just
to
right
Cedar Creek
Park.
Park.
Yeah.
And then at 9 o'clock, they're actually going to take off. They will run through the festival. Between now and September 13th, if you pre-register, you get a Run Faster, I Hear Banjos.
With the Carl Junction
T-shirt. You also get a funnel cake. After the 13th, you can still, of course, join. You can come in the day of the event. And after 13th, it's $30. There's a kids' fun run for $10.
Okay.
And, of course, that benefits something. There's some of the bands now.
So we see.
Oh, that's Joe Smith. He comes down from Lamar, plays guitar, steel guitar. Oftentimes he'll join up with a couple, 3 of the bands because he's one of the best in the region, and they just borrow him.
Kind of like having a jam session. Let me join you. Huh?
Jam session is always going on behind the bandstand, and it never fails. There's people that come here, and that's what they just love to do all day long is go back. So if you can listen to the bands, or you can wander back there and even play yourself.
And here's a shot of the crowd.
Well, and we encourage people to bring their lawn chairs. That way they can sit as close as they want. They can move. We're under a great canopy of trees, so it's very shady. But if you want to move your chair,
as the sun moves throughout the day, you can just move that chair.
Yeah.
Move along.
There's Randy
Another
Corbin.
band.
Yeah, he's the man. And beside him is Al Brumley Jr. We've had him there at the festival a couple of times. Well-known name. And he always invites everyone to come up on the stage and play with him when he does I'll Fly Away. So it's a lot of fun, and we may have him back again.
So a lot of interaction with the audience. It's not just sit there and watch passively.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of bales of straw, a lot of pumpkins, a lot of mums, and of course you can get pumpkins and mums that day.
So you can bring some home to your
house. One of the very first fall festivals
Beautiful
of the
stuff.
year.
Beautiful stuff.
Another crowd shot, people enjoying the performances.
And you know, our population sometimes will double the day of this festival.
Oh, yeah.
But people from throughout the region
come in, sure.
Right. Lots of fine instruments, so I imagine
Lots
if you
of
are
instruments.
knowledgeable in music and you see the instruments, there's a lot of wow factor there just with the types of instruments people are using.
Oh, yeah. There was some bands will not just play any old instrument. They will play something that is interesting in itself. This is the 19 whatever, you know, Gibson that I found in my grandfather's closet, and everybody will just wow, because that's part of the music, part of the culture, you know, just like rock music has its 1960 some Stratocaster, you know, Fender. These old Gibson, you know, mandolins and guitars and others, they're beautiful to listen to.
Yeah, they just showed a shot of some younger players. I mean, you've got your Albert Brumleys, the people that have been around forever, but you've got all these up-and-comers too.
People who are taking up the
and
music at a young age.
This is a great venue for them to get some exposure.
We have award-winning youth players that will go to competitions, and whether it's in fiddle or some other instrument, a lot of these musicians are very serious about their craft, and they enjoy competing, and you'll hear some of the best sometimes. It's really a pleasure.
It looks like it's also a family affair. You have a group here that, you know, the people, you know.
That's the other wonderful thing about bluegrass. It's often very family-centered, and families will often be the act. And we've gotten to know that family was together for a number of years, came back to our festival repeatedly, and finally they grow up, and sometimes they
someone
move
moves
on.
away from home and you can't do it.
But the music they made together is unforgettable, you know, and it's fun to listen to them because they understand each other and they play well together.
Living together and playing together. A little shot here involving some of the cars, the car show.
And that kind of answers your question, what kind of cars? You
right.
see some dragsters, you see some muscle cars, you see a 57 Bel Air, I believe that is. Just a little bit of everything. What's going to be different this year is it's going to be about twice as many.
It's a bigger, expanded
It's going to be much bigger.
So one of the challenges you've had as this has grown is looking at your space in the park and where can we put more cars, where can we fit these different activities?
We're very blessed to have a partnership with the Missouri Mounted Guard that come in and help with the parking, and we've got people that help us to have a fleet of golf carts so that we can get people wherever they need to be in the festival, especially if they've got some mobility issues. Right. But you know, we're going to fill this park up, and I don't know, in a year or two we'll address that issue of what to do, and maybe that means moving parking somewhere else and running shuttle. I don't know.
That's right. Fit in.
But you know, we're
That's a good
anxious to
problem
get
to have.
this first one under our belt as a chamber.
Together. Well, as we're talking on the program, obviously we're giving information for people to find out more details. I mean, you have a schedule of events, a lot of things. You also have a website and a Facebook page.
There's two great ways. One, they're showing now, of course, the Facebook page, which is Carl Junction Bluegrass Festival. Also, if you go to our chamber's website, carljunctioncc.com, there's a Bluegrass Festival page too, and that gives you kind of an idea of what all's going on. The Bluegrass Facebook page is a little bit more spontaneous, probably more
what's
more
coming
updates.
new updates and what's something.
And so I would recommend liking that page, and we would hope that viewers would share that page too.
Now, as you're planning the event, you have some things that you do on a consistent basis. What about the time, start time and end time for the day? What are we taught? We haven't actually said, what time do you start in the morning? People, other than the run, would you ready?
Well, the first band goes on at 9:30, but before that, we always have a pledge of allegiance. We have an opening prayer, so we kind of get things going by around 9:15, just to come in, settle down, and the vendors are already there waiting on you, anyways. You
and
know,
they'll have
so
food for you to eat if you show up, and that's your breakfast.
You betcha.
There's gravy, there's pie.
And I'm already tired. I've been there for 4 hours because all the craft vendors come in and set up, so it doesn't matter how early you come.
But from that point, 9 or so in the morning, then you have the band scheduled back to back to back throughout the day.
Yes, and we go all the way till 6 o'clock.
It's continuous, and one thing and I was guilty of this too. I thought, well, I don't know if I like bluegrass music, but bluegrass music, like Chuck mentioned, it's a kind of a melting pot of a lot of different kinds of music. And what you find when you get down there is if you like music, you're going to love it, and if you also enjoy family-oriented, kid-friendly entertainment, and if you want to do something that's affordable that the whole family can come to, well, with free admission, you know, if any of those things appeal to you, you'll find that that backdrop of the continuous music just is one more benefit.
So while you're visiting the vendors, the music's playing in the background, the kids could be overplaying, you know, there's a lot of things that you can do.
And there's plenty of shopping, there's lots for the kids to do, there's, I mean, there's something for everyone in the family.
And you're talking about vendors as far as crafts. Are these Americana type crafts? I mean, people are looking for as well.
Yeah,
things they can
a
use in
lot of
decorating.
a lot of things that are handmade, and we've expanded those as well. So there's some good shopping. Of course, you know, Christmas will be here soon.
Right. So September's the time to start looking at those things.
Well, and here's a chance to buy something that's locally made, and actually very reasonably priced. So you can put something under the tree that you're not going to find in any shop. So it's a great place to shop.
And it's so accessible everywhere you go. Everything is very close together. You're not walking, you know, 5 acres to get to something and getting tired and dragging your kid along. You can sit in your lawn chair and see everything that you need to go to. The craft booths are all set in shade, most of them. You can walk in an easy path, get right back. You can still hear the music the whole time. You can send your kids across the way. You can still spot them if you want. Center Creek Park is just a very shady, cool, nice, relaxing location.
Thanks to the creek running through it, it's kind of a
perfect.
picturesque type location for you to have this type of.
And a lot of the vendors will work with you. If you've got a purchase and you're not ready to take it, they'll hold it for you. And of course, we've got the golf cart shuttle. If you need to drop some things off your cart and then come back, you can do that. But you know, the music is always within earshot. That's the main thing.
And people can come and go throughout the day. If they have something that morning, they can still show up at 1 o'clock and be there throughout the afternoon.
And they do. They do. They often come and sit for a while, listen, and then they may have something to do that day, and they just come right back. It's easy going.
So kids have a soccer game, you come back after the game, bring the family
Exactly.
along.
Or if they want,
my family does.
if there's a specific band, you know, they may come do some shopping and come back for a certain band.
And you have that posted through your Facebook and
do.
your website as well, which bands are playing at which time.
Yeah.
So they can find out that type of information. Well, attendance, you mentioned the population of the town really growing at that time. People who may not be from Carl Junction might be wondering, what are we talking about numbers of people? How big is Carl Junction and how big of a crowd?
Carl Junction is over 7,500, and there's been numbers as high as 8,000 to 10,000 in the past. I think 8's probably closer to the truth. I've heard some 8 to 10. I think it kind of grows like a fish store. But anywhere from 4,000 to 8,000. But on those big peak years, and we expect this one really to be probably the biggest one ever, if not the biggest. You know, it has the potential of doubling our population for the day.
Yeah.
And so we've got a great working relationship with our fire and our police and emergency personnel so that everything is nice and safe.
Traffic control, people come and go safely and be able to tie all that together.
And it's free. And
that's one of the things you don't have to pay to come through the gate.
Well, we'd rather they spend the money with the vendors.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, there is opportunities. There's the donation canisters, and I'll be honest, those kind of make or break a festival coming back. So we hope that, when a person is done, maybe if you don't want to throw a dollar in coming in the gates, maybe when you leave, if you've had a good time, we'd ask for whatever moves you to donate. That'll help us bring it back next year too.
Yeah.
People wonder, how do you afford to put on these types of festivals? So it's community support, business support, to give the dollars and cents.
The good thing with the chamber taking over is a lot of our members have stepped up to help. But it's never made money.
Right, you're not.
It's never been the goal,
and it doesn't have to. We don't want to lose money, but the main thing is we want to put on something that benefits the community, that brings people to Carl Junction, and that gives us that opportunity to do some things for our local charities. And so it'll work out. It always does.
We want to see it get to the 25 and the 30 and the 50th, and I want to hand this off to somebody else, someday, that we really believe this has got the tradition and the quality and the backing and a nice community to do this in.
You mentioned the long-term record of running the program. Some of the area communities might say, well, what does it take to have a successful festival like this? Whether you're starting one or continuing one. What are some of the keys to success?
If it ain't broke,
don't fix it.
Don't fix
exactly.
it. And you can't go wrong with if you keep it as a good, clean event, and if you make it affordable so that people can. There's no excuse that I can't bring the whole family because it'll nickel and dime me. It's like, no, it's free. So you hang on to those core components that have proven it successful for 16 going on 17 years, and then you try and add some things and mix it up.
And so, and the things that you add, are those a result of people giving you feedback? You know, as you talk to the members of the community,
Of
somebody says,
course.
have you ever thought about doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when this one is done, we'll kind of look at what we did and what we want to do next year to grow it. And I got to tell you, the Joplin Convention and Visitors Bureau has helped us a lot, because we don't have lodging, but we're bringing in thousands of people. And so as we grow this, that'll benefit the hotel trade here. And we have received multiple requests from people wanting to come and play, more than we've got time. So it might be that that will be the next step. Maybe it'll be an amateur mic night the night before or something next morning, and kind of expand it to a 2-day. Yeah, and that will of course allow for more lodging. We were really lucky this year. We've got a partnership with Marriott, the residents in here in Joplin, and anyone that wants to stay at Marriott the day of the event, there's a special rate. And so that makes it, even if you're not traveling, if you've this is kind of old home week. A lot of people come back to Carl Junction.
Week for people to say,
but
they may not want the in-laws staying with them, so we suggest that they send them to the Marriott. So
this is another stop on what is starting to be the bluegrass circuit in this area. The culture of bluegrass continues to grow. A good example, Neosho had their first festival. And
so did Pittsburgh.
And so did Pittsburgh. We got to meet the gentleman that's coordinating that, and so they're learning.
They came to you to get ideas. How do we do this?
And we're all cross promoting and helping each other
exactly.
build this up.
We're more than happy to promote each other, and that's the way it works. We're all on one team. The bluegrass bands do that with each other. They know each other where they go, and they know where they play, and they talk about each other, and they just keep that. There's a circuit developing. Pay attention. About every month you're going to be able to go somewhere in this area and hear fine bluegrass, sit down in the park, enjoy it. Neosho kept it simple. They ran out of food.
The crowd didn't eat all the food, right?
And I went down there and met some new bands that I hadn't met before, and it was great fun. It was great fun, and that's the beauty of what we're doing.
Trying to have that fun for the community, and mention the Carl Junction Bluegrass Festival is really a regional attraction. You're trying to bring, inviting, as we record, people from throughout the region to come into town that day.
Yeah. It's always the fourth Saturday.
So
it's a four-state affair.
Four-state affair, September 27th this year.
September 27th.
And if they're looking for information, once again, they can check out your website and get the details.
CarlJunctionCC.com.
Great. Well, I'd like to thank both of you for visiting today and providing this information, a little glimpse of what's coming up, and I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you, Judy.
Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome. And I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for joining us this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. Hope to see you again next week at the same time on this station. We'll see you then.